Raphael will also paint philosophy, also known as the School of Athens, in the Vatican Palace around 1509. Now, this was one of the most important papal commissions at the time. This is, after all, basically the papal library, and it's being commissioned by Julius II. What we have is an attempt to visually summarize Renaissance learning in the classical model, or their understanding of it, along with poetry, theology, and law. Now, this refers to the four branches of human knowledge at the time. This is the Christian answer to the 7 liberal arts. So the church doesn't believe that you need all of this information, that you need grammar, logic, rhetoric, arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, and music. They want to boil it down. They want to give you poetry, law, philosophy, and theology. And really, poetry and law, interestingly, will be depicted across from one another, as will philosophy and theology in Raphael's paintings. The reason is, poetry, sort of lyricism and creativity, is the opposite of law, based in logic. Philosophy, a very secular study, is the opposite of theology, both of which dealing with concepts of thought and broader ideas of what it is to be human, but going about it in very different ways, very opposite ways. So what we're going to see is philosophy is being depicted to balance out theology and depict a learned pope, give us the idea of Julius as a very educated, very humanistic pope. Now, what we're seeing here is not a school, but rather a meeting of the great minds discussing their various ideas. In the background, we have 2 interesting statues. One is Artemis on the right, one is Apollo on the left. Those are, of course, not Christian figures. And what Raphael's doing here is he's trying to be symbolic, give us the idea that the classical world gave us a great deal, but something such as their pagan religion is something that's best left in the past. We're left with its statues, but not its belief system. And so that's going to be very important. It separates the ideas of the Greeks, the Romans, and others from their pagan belief system. And of course, when you're in the Vatican, that's going to be rather important. We also see that all the characters are depicted through mood, identity, and props. For example, the most important, we have Plato in the center, carrying the book. Next to him, Aristotle, pointing to the heavens. On the stairs, we have Diogenes. And over here on the left, little hard to see, we see Socrates. These are amongst the great thinkers of, well, the classical world and the world as they understand it in Raphael's 16th century. Now, we have other people as well. We have scientists, mathematicians, and you sit here and you say, but this is philosophy. Well, yes, that's true. But philosophy at the time is considered, and science are considered basically the same thing, because much of philosophy was really the study of science and how the world is made up, whereas today we think of them as 2 very different realms. In the background, we have these massive barrel vaults and what appears to be a massive domed section that is recreating, or Raphael recreating, the monumental Roman architecture that you would have seen during the Empire, something that Julius and many other popes are trying to recreate in Rome. And here we see all of these great figures in this classical space, all of them owing their knowledge or some aspect of their ideas to the classical world. You'll also notice as we look at the orthogonals, at those receding horizontal lines, that they meet at a vanishing point right around waist level, right in the center of Aristotle and Plato. Of course, Aristotle and Plato lay much of the foundation of Western thought, and so they lay here at the center, at the focal area of the image. Overall, what makes this particularly powerful is its context, its location. The fact that it's in the Vatican, and we're seeing that acceptance of humanism by the papacy. And that's really unusual. You don't think of that connection, but yet it's happening here. And of course, it won't happen for long. We'll see the Protestant Reformation, the Counter-Reformation, and everything else that's going to take place, that's going to, well, shift how the church looks at the world. But in this moment, we see incredible acceptance captured in Raphael's School of Athens, or philosophy.